Supermarkets under attack this morning as the government accuses them of making super profits. Soon there will be a grocery commissioner who can be complained to, anyone can complain to, if prices are unfair. Buying fresh fruit and veggies is chewing up more and more of your budget, with prices rising 18% in March compared to the same month the year prior. The Minister of Commerce and Consumer Affairs is David Clark. He's with us this morning. Minister, good morning.
Good morning, Ryan.
You have said previously that you are trying to rein in the supermarkets' super profits. How much is the super profit worth?
We have had advice from the Commerce Commission that it's about $460 million a year. From memory, we know by their most conservative estimate it's $1 million a day in excess profits, and obviously that's quite significant because it's been happening for years and years, and that's coming straight out of Kiwis' pockets. So that's why we're introducing the Grocery Commissioner, someone who can hold the industry to account.
All right, so when did you get that estimate of $1 million a day?
That estimate came through in the final report from the Commerce Commission in March. They earlier estimated it higher, but they actually lowered their estimate by taking all of the supermarkets' feedback and making sure that they weren't overestimating that. But obviously it's about the return on the capital invested is roughly twice what it is in many other jurisdictions around the world.
Sure. So Countdown has put a statement out overnight, and they have said that customers have already saved $7 million just in the last few weeks from their price rollback. You still confident in that $1 million figure?
Oh, what I'm particularly pleased about, yes, that is a figure that's been measured over many years.
But does it take into account...
The supermarkets have been responding in recent weeks, and they have been doing price freezes and rollbacks. So consumers are already starting to benefit from having the scrutiny of a market study, and the scrutiny of a grocery regulator will also go a long way to making sure that more competitive approach continues.
So you're saying that $7 million saving that consumers have already felt is not because of the pressure, the media pressure from the rising cost of living. You're saying that's down to the market study.
Look, I'm sure it's a range of things. Kiwis are feeling the cost of living, there's no doubt. The global inflationary environment is affecting people. One of the things that we've said we can do is step in and make sure that Kiwis are getting a fair deal at the checkout as well, because that impacts on Kiwis every week. It's their second largest household expense is spent at the grocery store. So that's why we're taking the steps we can take. The Commerce Commission's laid out 14 recommendations. We accepted 12. There's 2 we said we wanted to go further because we think there's a real opportunity here to make a meaningful change that will impact Kiwis.
So just so we're clear before we move on, you're saying that despite the fact that our grocery bills are $7 million cheaper now than when the report was released, you still think supermarkets are making $1 million in super profits a day?
I'm saying over time they're making $1 million. This has been done over years, week by week.
So
obviously that will go up and down a wee bit. They'll still be making excess profits right now. There's no question about that on the maths that the Commerce Commission's provided.
Okay, what is the cost of the changes that you're making? First of all, to the taxpayer, setting this up, paying for the commissioner.
It'll be less. It'll be less than a week's super profits is my best estimate at this stage. We're going to go for ongoing costs in the upcoming budget, but it'll be less than a week's super profit. They're getting $1 million a day, so that gives us, if we start with a budget of around $7 million, that'll be a week's worth.
All right, so $7 million, which is quite a chunk of change. What about the...
That's a first estimate, Ryan. Please, I'm not expecting that those will be the final numbers, but that's a rough ballpark figure. You've asked one.
We're working with rough numbers, I understand. The compliance cost to the industry, do you know what it's going to cost the supermarkets to comply with what you're putting in place?
I'm confident with the level of excess profit they're making that any compliance cost will be a fraction of that. That's the Commission's estimate. They say that improving competition in the market will see better prices and range. It'll mean, most importantly, better competition is aimed at getting the smaller players in the market to grow, giving them the opportunity to grow and to potentially attract other players from overseas.
Sure.
Those things will bring better competition and better prices for consumers.
So you don't know how much it's going to cost industry. It's an unknown. So we've got $7 million for the taxpayer.
Well, it depends what the final look of the regime looks like, but it will be. We know that it'll be a lot less than the profits that they're making currently.
Okay, so $7 million plus unknown at this stage. How much will we save on our grocery bills and by when?
Well, obviously people are already saving money with these price rollbacks and freezes that have come into place.
Yes, but we haven't spent any money yet, Minister.
They are temporary.
Yeah, but remember, we haven't spent any money yet. So we've got those things for free.
Right,
so what I'm trying to work out is how much you're spending and how much you're costing the industry versus how much we will save because of it. So how much will we save on our grocery bills and by when?
Well, you know, if the Commerce Commission's recipe works, that will cut into that roughly $400 million a year in excess profits that the supermarkets are making over time. It's not going to change straight away.
Long?
Each step along the way
how long and how
is
much?
An important part of the progress that we're going to make.
How long and how much?
And Ryan, I started out this conversation by saying we do not have final figures. I can tell you it's a fraction of the excess profits that they'll be making, and ordinary Kiwis right now are picking up the bill on all of that.
But you don't know the number, so how do you know it's a fraction?
Well, we know by proportions and common sense that a few million as compared to hundreds of millions.
So did the Commerce Commission come to you and say we're basing this on common sense?
No, they supplied numbers. I can, by written answer, I'm sure I can supply you some more detailed numbers from that report. It's a 500-odd page report. I have read every page. I am pretty au fait with the general gist of it.
The general gist.
Say.
Okay.
I think New Zealanders deserve to have hundreds of millions of dollars that they are not just forking out because we've got an uncompetitive market.
So this
$1 million a day, every day, that Kiwis are forking out in excess profits beyond what they'd expect. I mean,
no
we're
one
not
is
saying
arguing
that supermarkets aren't going to continue to make profits.
No one is arguing that's not a good thing. No one likes that. What I'm saying is what you are doing going to affect that or not? Will there be an outcome?
So Kiwis will be better off overall. Quite considerably better off overall, it would be my expectation, based on what the Commerce Commission analysis shows. Based on what the Commerce Commission analysis shows of the hundreds of millions in excess profits that the supermarkets are making every year, year after year after year, and based on having a competitive market where they don't make hundreds of millions of profits every year and take that out of Kiwis' pockets.
Okay, so far we will hope and pray at 7:15, but I want to move on to something that you have a more direct influence over, something that's more tangible for you as a government, and that is costs, compliance costs, regulations for all businesses really, but supermarkets in particular, because those are things that you can change, right? Have you asked anybody what the impact of the new public holiday, the compulsory labour price increase to the minimum wage, which have gone up 35% under Labour, doubling of the sick leave allowance, have you asked what those costs and compliance costs have had, what effect they've had on prices?
Those are always debated. Obviously, internationally, Australia pays much higher wages, has higher productivity as a result, and they are, as an economy, wealthier.
But
that's the reality of it.
The impact on prices. Have you asked?
If I could answer your question.
Okay.
Well, there's two sides to this story. If people have more money in their pockets, they're able to afford more at the supermarket, and that's the reality in Australia, for example. That is a debate always about the minimum wage, about productivity and so on, and how many hours people work. That's an international debate, and evidence is brought to Cabinet every time a decision's taken on the minimum wage, outside my portfolio area, obviously, but I do see those reports come through, and I'm aware of the international wage scene and the debate around the extent to which minimum wages affect people's costs as well.
Okay. So the question was very much in your purview. This is about the price of consumer products. It's about the price of our grocery products. And you've launched a whole raft of reports, and there are recommendations up the wazoo on how we can, shake this duopoly. Have you stopped and asked your officials how much the increase in the minimum wage, for example, or costs that you are imposing on these supermarkets might be contributing to the price increases?
Obviously, the minimum wage is not a direct cost for the supermarkets, where it's not a cost for anyone else. That's pretty clear. The increased costs of any regulation will depend upon the final regulation that's agreed, and that's been consulted with supermarkets. Supermarkets are having a say on that with officials in an ongoing conversation right now. So that's something that's very much taken into account and thought about.
Just so we're clear, though, Minister, you haven't asked anybody, any official, what government is doing that might be contributing to an increase in cost. You haven't done that.
Every week by week, when I meet with my officials, I am concerned that we implement this regime in the way that has the least costs and the most benefits for consumers. That's my job. That's what I'm very focused on.
Can I very quickly just read you a piece of feedback from Kevin, who's emailed in our program this morning? Kevin says, biggest rip-off is GST, and this is the flavour of what we get. Biggest rip-off is GST and other taxes on food. Government is the single biggest beneficiary from food sales. The grocery store owner profits are around 1.5%. It looks excessive due to volume. Government GST is 15%. So who's the biggest beneficiary?
Yeah, so all of that money, of course, goes back into paying for schools and hospitals and roads, which hopefully most citizens use. That is why tax is collected in the first place, is to make sure that we have those basic services that none of us could buy our own hospital. And so we do need to afford a health system. That's what where that money from tax tends to end up.
All right, Minister, thank you very much for your time. Always appreciate you coming on the program.
Thanks, Ron.
19 after 7, that's Minister of Commerce and Consumer Affairs, David Clark.